Pro Tools users, all we've ever known is the oftentimes convoluted and time-consuming approach to panning. Panning typically requires multiple automation passes to bring your surround environments to life. And if you're trying to accurately pan sync elements to on-screen action, all you have is your ears to sense if the pan feels right. Luckily, where Pro Tools falls short, a developer fills the void. This is how Spanner and Span Control came about. Let's first have a look at instantiating the Spanner plugin, familiarizing ourselves with the user interface, coupling Spanner with the free Span Control iPad app, and lastly look at how Yukon-enabled hardware controllers can give you tactile control over Spanner's parameters. Loaded up is the sci-fi film Norman. Scrolling down the session, you'll see countless instances of Spanner instantiated. To use Spanner, simply insert it onto your insert chain. To be most CPU efficient, insert Spanner after any processing in the chain. I do typically allocate the first slot for Spanner. Yes, it can lead to some CPU waste, but the trade-off for me comes in quicker access to Spanner from my artist mix or my Avid S3. In a typical 5:1 film session, I often roll with a set amount of mono and stereo tracks, as well as a few 5.0 and 5.1 tracks and a dedicated LFE. However, you'll find Spanner is flexible with routing abilities. You can route a mono track to any standard channel configuration up to 7.1, or take a 7.1 track and downmix to any channel configuration down to mono. To write pan automation, ensure Spanner is fully automation enabled. We'll be looking at a few simple common scenarios for using Spanner, but let's first briefly go over the user interface using a 5.0 background track. You'll notice the main panner window is populated with individual pucks, representing each channel in a 5.0 environment. To rearrange any of the channels in the surround field, just click on or near a puck and drag about. To reset, Option-click on or near a puck. Using modifier keys, we have further flexibility over our channel pucks. Holding down Control and clicking near our channel pucks enables us to move the front or rear pairs forward or backward relative to the position they're currently in. Using Shift, we can move our front or rear channel pairs in absolute mode. Dragging now to the left and right, our pucks respond accordingly. Holding down the Option key plus Control or Shift gives us the same function, but in turn controls all pucks at once, instead of just front or rear pairs. Control, Shift, Option, and dragging right or left lets us perform a very cool feature: the ability to rotate the relative position of our pucks. Right-clicking and dragging up-down on a puck allows us to individually gain up or down specific channels. You can also easily adjust the input trim fader controls toward the left of the plugin window. Shift plus right-clicking adjusts center percentage. And when applicable, Control plus right-clicking adjusts the amount of channel signal we want to route to an LFE channel. Toward the bottom of Spanner, we have the option for introducing more or less smoothing. This allows us to adjust the responsiveness to our puck moves using our mouse. All the way to the left, movements will precisely mirror your mouse moves. Moving all the way to the right, we'll introduce a rubber banding effect, smoothing out any jerkiness to your automation moves. To the right, we have options for a visual overlay, used to reference our pan position on screen. Below, we can pimp our meters. As we play any media within a track, we have visuals showcasing where the sound is weighted in our spatial environment. Push all the pucks to the left, and the increase in sonic energy is represented. In regards to pimping meters, this feature is most useful for low-level source material, such as quietly recorded background ambiances. Selecting pimp meters amplifies our visual feedback so we can more easily determine where our sound energy is weighted. Lastly, we can solo channel outputs to monitor specific material from one or any combination of outputs by clicking or shift-clicking to add additional channel solos. To experience multi-touch control with Spanner, we have the Span Control app. It can communicate with your host system via a mutually connected Wi-Fi network or via Bluetooth. Once you load up your PT session, Span Control automatically communicates with the plugin and will allow you to start taking control of any currently open spanner within the timeline. If for any reason the app has not made a connection, be sure to make sure your system is selected on the bottom right. And if any changes are made to your network and no connection is present, just press the Relaunch Connection button on Span Control to refresh the connection. Above, scroll through to view any Spanner instances present in our project. And when opening any Spanner plugin instance, Span Control immediately updates to the newly selected track. On the column to the left, we have our various control parameters within Span Control: move, toe, absolute, rotate, center percentage, trim, and LFE send controls. Above we have our all in pair options. If neither are highlighted, all pucks will be moved independently of each other. All selected, you can control the movement of all channels with one finger. If you're dealing with front and rear channels, you can select pairs and control both front and rear channels using just two fingers. In move mode, whether pair or all is enabled, you just press and control whatever pucks are nearest to your finger relative to their current position. I like using move to easily move pucks into general positions that I desire, but I don't always write automation using that option, or at least as much. Toe mode focuses on width adjustment of your side channels, whether the front or rear right and left channels. I use this mode a lot to get the width feeling just right, or to write automation in a situation where I'm wanting to start with a narrow, more mono feel and end up by broadening the width. Toe is also great for easily inverting your stereo or multi-channel material. In absolute mode, when you press your finger down, whatever puck nearest to your position will snap exactly to your finger. I reach for absolute mode most often when I'm wanting to set precise channel positions and perform accurate multi-channel pan moves, using sometimes up to all 5 fingers to move surround content in real time. I use rotate most often with quad or 5/0 content when wanting to quickly and easily reorient my material to best fit a scene. Rotate is also great for some fun sound design by simply taking interesting material and dropping your finger right or left, spinning in relation to the speed of your finger moves. Center percentage is self-explanatory. Just select, drag up or down to create more or less of a hole in the center speaker to perhaps reserve more space to the dialogue in a scene. Trim, up or down movements to adjust the overall level up or down of your track as a whole. LFE, up or down movements, to determine what amount of level of one or any number of channels to be fed to the LFE channel in a 5/1 mix. Moving across the bottom, we have pan and fade options. With both highlighted, we have free movement across the X and Y axes. If you disable pan, we can only move our pucks front or rear. And if fade is disabled and pan enabled, then we can only move our channels right or left. Making use of the pan and fade options are great when wanting to make precise movements along one or the other axes. In Span Control, we can also adjust our smoothing parameters to initiate a rubber banding effect to smooth our finger movements. Next, we have Lay and M&T. Lay refers to our visual panning reference overlay option, and M&T from Mount, which determines whether or not Span Control automatically updates to the current spanner instance selected via the mixer edit windows. If deselected, Span Control won't mirror your selection from within Pro Tools, and instead you can manually select which spanner instance you want to utilize via the Instance Selection panel on the right. Now let's talk about my favorite feature, the overlay option. Just select the lay, overlay option, and an overlay window will appear. Drag to expand or shrink the overlay window to correspond properly to the dimensions of your video, and you're set. Now we can pan sounds accurately to our characters on screen. If our pan pucks skirt the forward or topmost part of our visual window, it means they're tracking along our front speaker array. The farther we push them back, the more they're playing in our rear array. The last thing I want to address is how Spanner beautifully integrates with our Yukon-enabled hardware. In my case, the Avid Artist Mix and the Avid S3. To access Spanner via the S3, we'll want to access our inserts via the Insert soft key. Since I tend to load up Spanner on my first insert across all tracks, it's just one knob top click away to bring up full control. Right now I have access to Spanner functionality via the knob tops spread out across my Avid S3. Just hit the flip to fader function key and we'll transfer Spanner's controls from our rotary knobs down to our faders. You can really have fluid and tactile control over Spanner, and because of Yukon with Spanner selected, no matter which track we select via the select soft key on our surface or simply whatever track we select in our timeline with edit and timeline selection enabled in Pro Tools, Spanner will automatically follow our track selections. We can make a selection over a sound, perform a pan, make another selection a few tracks up or down, and can easily perform another move. Utilizing flip to faders is my absolute favorite way of working with Spanner when it comes to performing pans, especially across the front array of speakers. I use it all the time for panning accurate Foley associated with the characters. We can also do front to rear movements, rotation, whatever we want, and that's the beauty of Spanner. You're not locked to just one way of working in surround. From up mixing content to down mixing content to intuitive surround panning controls, all that's left to you is how you choose to work. Either way, I guarantee with Spanner, you'll not only be more efficient, but you'll find yourself smiling a lot more. I'm Jonah Guelzo. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.